Alright, what's going on, guys? So, a little bit different today, as you can see. We're doing a little bit of a rebrand on the channel. I've decided to kind of go away from the whole commissioner kind of look and thing. I'm still going to be doing videos about being a commissioner and all of that, but I'm going to rebrand a little bit more to the fantasy side of things because that seems to be what you guys like a little bit more. So, welcome to the first video as the Fantasy Dome. I guess Dome is like, the play on the name Dom, Dom the Commish, kind of paying homage. Obviously, it's my name as well, so works pretty well. But for our first video on the Fantasy Dome, we are going to be doing another mock draft. I've been loving doing these mock drafts, getting one out to you every week. This time, we're actually going to be doing trades. I know I said I was going to do them last time, and I didn't do anything. I am going to do a couple of trades. I have a couple ideas on who might trade up and who might trade down. But yeah, I think we're going to be starting this draft real quick. But once again, if you like the rebrand, if you like the videos, please once again leave a like and subscribe. We've been stuck on 20 subscribers for about a couple weeks now. Love to get to 21, maybe even 25. But yeah, let's get started. Titans, once again, kind of a no-brainer here. Cam Ward going number 1 overall. I feel like this is easily the easiest decision for them, and he's the best player on the board. I mean, you can't get much better than a quarterback who pretty much has it all, and honestly is the only quarterback that seems to be worth taking in the top 10, at least easily the only quarterback worth taking in the top 5 as of right now. So, where does this leave the Browns? Now, the Browns they've been around every single possible avenue, and it seems like they're closing in on their guy, and that guy is going to be Travis Hunter. It looks like they're closing in on him, according to Adam Schefter. They think that they're going to go Travis Hunter at 2, and I don't mind it. I mean, Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. I think that Travis Hunter fits what the Browns want to do a little bit more, considering they already have Myles Garrett, but I think that Travis Hunter is a phenomenal player. He could play on both sides of the ball. And, yeah, I think that he's exactly what the Browns need. Maybe have a little bit of spark into their franchise. Do I think Travis Hunter is going to succeed there, though? The Browns have a very big history of not developing talent. And especially with no quarterback to throw him the ball, I think that Travis Hunter is going to struggle a little bit in Cleveland, especially if they make this pick, which is why I always like the fact that they should go Abdul Carter or maybe even trade down. Now, the New York Giants here. So, Brian Dable's been at Penn State the entire weekend. He's been, his daughter's in a sorority here, I'm pretty sure. But he's also been meeting with Abdul Carter. Apparently, it's at the Waffle House here or some similar like that. But he's having a meeting with Abdul Carter. And are the Giants absolutely 100% super happy on taking Abdul Carter? I think they would be. However, I don't think that the Giants are going to be overly excited because that leaves a bit of something to be desired because they already have Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns. So now what do you do here? You either take Abdul Carter, who is obviously an amazing talent, or you, I guess, go away but take a player that's a lot less of talent. They're going to take Abdul Carter. If Abdul Carter is on the board here, they're most likely going to take them. However, at pick number 3, the Giants will definitely be open to trading down, especially if a team that is in much need of an edge rusher, like the Jets, the Panthers, you could even say like the Saints or the Bears. I think that this is a prime trade down spot. And I'm going to say that the Bears are trying to build something special here. I'm going to have the Bears trading up with the Giants. Once again, this happened a couple years ago with Justin Fields, but I think that the Giants here, the Bears are going to give the Giants an offer that they can't refuse for number 3. It's going to be something with like a first, maybe like another third this year, could even be a second this year, but it's going to have some big implications, I should say. But it could be, a second this year and a third this year. Something big to move up to number 3. I don't know what the whole deal is going to be, but they're going to move up to take Abdul Carter at number 3. This is a really, really big risk for the Giants as well as it is for the Bears, because I think if the Giants pick Abdul Carter here, then they go to move away from Kayvon Thibodeau, and they maybe trade him for he's probably worth somewhere around maybe a second or multiple day 3 picks with a third round pick, and I think he's still got potential. He's still young. He had 10 sacks a couple seasons ago. He's been struggling a little bit, but I think that he's in no means, as big of a bust as I think he's been easily better than Trayvon Walker, but he hasn't been as good as Aiden Hutchinson, both of them being in the same draft and drafted before him. But I think he's been pretty mid for us, and I do like where we're heading, especially if we trade down and gain some more capital. The New England Patriots, what I think they should do is Will Campbell. I think Will Campbell's the best prospect in this draft. However, I think that they're going to go with the offensive tackle that is Armand Membou. Just because I think that they like Membou a little bit more because of, the size, the athleticism, the fact that he can really play mostly right tackle or even left tackle. I think that they like the versatility that they have there with Membou. They need a guy on the offensive line. I feel like this is the time to take him. And it just depends on who they like more. Do they like Will Campbell or do they like Membou more? And I think they like Membou more, unfortunately, because I think that Will Campbell is definitely the better player here. Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're going to be taking Mason Graham. That's usually what I do in these drafts. I mean, I don't see anywhere else. He's probably the best player in this draft, apart from the big three that I say is Hunter, Carter, and Ashton Jeanty. But Mason Graham is, once again, great at the run stop, super athletic. He's just a monster at D-tackle, and I think the Jags wouldn't be able to pass on him at number 5 overall. At number 6 overall, I see the Raiders here, and once again, it's kind of a boring pick. I have them taking Ashton Jeanty, another top 10 running back. I don't think there's been any running back besides Saquon Barkley that has been more deserving of being a top 10 back than Ashton Jeanty has been. People say that he didn't play as much good competition. He played really good competition. People forget that he ran a train around Oregon early in the season. He did struggle against Penn State. However, Penn State, once again, has Abdul Carter. They still have denied Dennis Sutton, Zane Durant. They had the best run defense in the country, and Boise State doesn't have the best offensive line. They had Jeanty, who was just able to make something happen when the offensive line didn't hold up. But when the offensive line didn't hold up, they got to Jeanty immediately. So that Penn State game I don't put on Jeanty just because the Boise's one-dimensional, and Jeanty is still an unbelievable prospect. So if you pair him with a quarterback who could still throw the ball really good, I think that Ashton Jeanty should have no problem being one of the best players in this draft class. For the New York Jets, once again, I like going the same. I think Tyler Warren could definitely be in play here. I feel like you could even go offensive tackle with Will Campbell. Maybe even another corner, Will Johnson. I think I'm going to stick with Tyler Warren, though. I think that the Jets are really gearing up to take him, or an edge rusher. I could see Jalen Walker going here. But, the Jets have absolutely no one at that position, and their only weapon on that team right now is Garrett Wilson. I guess they have Breece Hall, too, but, if Justin Fields drops back to pass, it is Garrett Wilson and nobody else. He has no tight end checkdowns. He could go to Breece Hall as a checkdown as well, but you're going to have one guy who can get open wide. I know you have Xavier Gibson and Malachi Corley, but I'm not too confident in them, and I think that the Jets are going to look to add another pass catcher for their brand new quarterback. Carolina Panthers, Jalen Walker. I think that this is a match made in heaven. They desperately need an edge rusher, and Jalen Walker is the guy who I think can get that done for them. He can also be a linebacker as well. I always talk about the versatility with Jalen Walker, but I just think that there's absolutely no better fit than, the Panthers. They need a linebacker who can also edge rush, but he can also drop back into coverage. I think that this would be a match made in heaven right here, Jalen Walker. Now, here's where it gets a little bit interesting. For the Saints, the board has fallen absolutely amazingly. You have Shedeur Sanders here. You still have offensive tackle. You have corner Will Johnson you can go with. Terrell McMillan as well. It's really, really tough. Where do you go here? And my answer with that is Shedeur Sanders. I think that Shedeur Sanders is the second best quarterback in this class. I think that he had potential to be the number 1 overall pick, and yes, he's sliding, but I think that if you are in contention to be the number one overall pick, especially after the season, I think that getting them at 9 is definitely a really good steal. And he doesn't have to start right away. He can sit behind Derek Carr and learn about the Saints and learn about the NFL playbooks. I think that Shedeur Sanders and the Saints, he gets to play with who's their head coach? I forget who the head coach is, but it's really, really good head coach. He gets to play for a great organization, and I think that Dion and Shedeur Sanders are going to be super happy with this landing spot. Now we come back to the New York Giants on the clock at 10. They just traded down with the Chicago Bears, gaining a bunch of picks. So who do they choose here? I think that there's one answer, and I think it's going to be Will Campbell. And here's why. So Will Campbell is, he might be an undersized offensive tackle, and I know he might have PTSD from picking an offensive tackle early in the draft, but I think that Will Campbell is the best offensive lineman in this draft, and he has the potential. If his arm and his wingspan doesn't work out as well, he could move into guard as well. And something that the Giants desperately need is a right guard. So if Will Campbell doesn't work out as a right tackle, we can move him into guard as well. And I think that, Will Campbell, once again, he'll be a really good tackle, especially if you pair him with Andrew Thomas. And if Andrew Thomas gets hurt, boom, you could put Will Campbell as your left tackle because that's where he's most comfortable playing. But still, I think that he could slot in at right tackle very well. I know it's not the sexy pick. I know it's not Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. But if the Giants trade down, I think they'll take an offensive lineman here. And then now with their new acquired picks, pick 39, maybe something else, I think that, it's a really, really good deal. Now, the 49ers, desperate need of a offensive lineman. They also could use defensive tackle depth. They just lost a lot of the guys, corners, linebackers. They need a lot of stuff. And I would like to go offensive lineman, but I'm going to go a little bit different. And I'm going to pick Walter Nolan here. And I think that Walter Nolan is absolutely flying up draft boards. I think that with the Niners losing so much on the interior defensive line, Javon Hargrave, not Teron Armstead, that's the... But they lost both their starting D tackles. I think that they'd be looking to replace him, especially in this part of the draft, and then pick up a lot of depth and a little bit. But I really like Walter Nolan here. Great run stopper. He's flying up the draft board, and I think that 11 to the 49ers works out super well for him. Cowboys at 12, Tetairoa McMillan. Tetairoa McMillan is the best wide receiver in this class. He's kind of similar to CeeDee Lamb in the type that, he's a strong receiver, a tall receiver, great route running. But I think that he'll slot in perfectly next to Tetairoa McMillan. I just watched Bengals' latest mock draft, and he actually had Matthew Golden going 12 to the Cowboys over Tetairoa McMillan. So he has Matthew Golden being the first true wide receiver off the board. He also had Shedeur Sanders to the Saints, but I think that this is going to happen too. I really like that idea. And I actually did a mock draft earlier to prepare for this video before I watched that video, and I predicted Shedeur Sanders to the Saints anyway. So, not just copying Bengal here, but yeah. Tetairoa McMillan, once again, super good prospect, and I think that he'll work really well with CeeDee Lamb. Dolphins right here go Kelvin Banks Jr. I think that Kelvin Banks is, really, really, really good prospect. And overall, he could play pretty much anywhere on the offensive line. I mean, he could play tackle, he could play guard. Teron Armstead is retiring and soon, not this season I don't think, but he's going to retire soon. And as soon as he's retired, that offensive line for the Dolphins is absolutely nobody. So having a guy like Kelvin Banks Jr. who can literally slot in anywhere is kind of really, really perfect. That's why I'm more of a fan of Kelvin Banks Jr. and Will Campbell over Armand Membou, because Armand Membou is pretty much specifically a tackle, and if he doesn't work out as tackle, I don't see his size and athleticism helping him anywhere else. But I think he's going to be I think he's got the highest upside, but his floor is also really, really low. Now, the Indianapolis Colts. So, right here, they have a couple options that they can go with. Definitely, they need a tight end. Tyler Warren is off the board, but you do have Colston Loveland, who, once again, people think he's a good tight end. I think he's overrated. But they also need offensive linemen, a linebacker. Overall, I see 14. So, Falcons and Cardinals. These are three defensive teams that need a lot of defensive players. So I think that this is also a trade down spot. I think that is going to be a trade down spot for the Indianapolis Colts because most of these teams are going to take defense, these three teams. So I think that the Buccaneers are going to try and make, hold on, let me quickly fix that. I think that the Buccaneers are going to try and make a move to jump these teams that need defensive players. Once again, I don't know the full trade details. I just did it for the Giants because it was a big deal, for the Bears moving up. I think the Bucs are going to try and jump these three teams to get a talented player in the secondary because I still see Will Johnson here. I think that the Buccaneers will see that Will Johnson sliding all the way to 14. Okay, the Colts probably don't want to take... The board hasn't fallen their way. There's not too many guys that I think they would like to take here. And, let's send them an offer and see what happens. We have three teams that desperately need some defensive talent picking right above us. So I think that Will Johnson makes perfectly good sense here. And, to jump the Falcons and Cardinals and Bengals from trying to get him. 15, Atlanta Falcons, Shamar Stewart. I think that, once again, you look at the defensive players on the board, he's the best one available as of right now. And I think that the Falcons, once again, desperate need of defensive pass rushing. And overall, Shamar Stewart is the best one available. A lot of people like Mike Green or Michael Williams. I'm going to take Shamar Stewart over them, and I think that the Falcons would too. So now, the real question is, now that I think the Cardinals were kind of hoping that Will Johnson was going to slide down to them, but he doesn't. So what do the Cardinals kind of need? So their needs are listed as edge, D-tackle, wide receiver, offensive guard, linebacker. So I think that this linebacker, Jihad Campbell, is going to come to the Cardinals. I think they just lost Kaiser White. I think their linebacker room is depleted. And once again, they need defensive help. And a guy who can be an anchor to that defense, almost like a Fred Warner type of player. I'm not comparing him to Fred Warner, but I'm saying that he could have that impact on the defensive side and be a leader like Fred Warner is on that defense. I think that it works out really, really well for them. And the Bengals are going to take the best safety on the board, which is going to be Nick Emenwari. Once again, Nick Emenwari. I have had Malachi Starks over him a lot, but I just think that now a lot of GMs have Emenwari as the best safety in the class. So I think that the Bengals will take a shot at getting, another really, really good safety. They just let Jesse Bates go, and that proved to be a very bad decision because Jesse Bates has been balling it out with Atlanta, while the Bengals defense has struggled immensely. Seahawks, I think they're going to go Matthew Golden. They loved having the 3 receiver set, having DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and JSN, having 3 unbelievably good receivers, and I think they're going to try and recreate that again with JSN, Matthew Golden, and Cooper Kupp. I think that Matthew Golden could be, once again, a menace in the slot. He's a great route runner. Cooper Kupp, you can kind of move all these guys everywhere and, give Sam Darnold the best chance that they have to succeed. The Indianapolis Colts, they don't really see anybody go in the last 4 picks where they traded down that they would probably have taken. And I think that you trade down, gain a couple assets, and still get the guy Colston Loveland that you need. And I think it works out perfectly and is exactly what the Indianapolis Colts want to happen. So Colston Loveland, once again, not a big fan. However, big tight end, great route runner, great blocker that Anthony Richardson can use as a security blanket because right now he has absolutely nobody except for Jonathan Taylor and I guess you can say Michael Pittman. But I actually think that the Colts wide receiver room is underrated. But the issue is that when those wide receivers aren't open, Anthony Richardson has no one to check it down to because everyone and their mother is going to be guarding Jonathan Taylor. If the receivers don't get open, then the next read is usually the tight end, and they have Kyle Grant in there, who's garbage. So overall, Loveland at 19 fills a massive hole. Probably one of the biggest holes in the league is the Colts tight end position. And probably the position group that is even bigger is the Broncos running back room, in which I'm going to be taking Omarion Hampton. So a lot of people have Omarion Hampton maybe going to the Bengals at 10. But I think that the first thing that, Ben Johnson and the Lions did when they could is get an absolutely elite edge rusher, which they did in Aiden Hutchinson. The Bears don't have that. I think that first they're going to go get an elite edge rusher, and then they're going to try and go get a running back maybe later in this draft or in the next draft. But I think that you can't succeed without that stud edge rusher, and the Bears don't have that. And then no one else is taking Omarion Hampton that early, so I think he's going to slide right here to the Broncos at 20. Once again, I think he's an unbelievable prospect. I think that anyone would be happy taking Omarion Hampton here. And yeah, he's pretty much finishes that Broncos offense. You now have a top quarterback, a top running back, a top receiver room, a good tight end in Evan Ingram, and a top offensive line, paired with the number one defense in the league. This team is going to be scary. Now, I know the Steelers are getting Aaron Rodgers. Most likely, they might sign him, they might not, but as of right now, the Steelers have absolutely nobody at quarterback. And I don't think they want to go in the realm of starting someone like Jalen Milroe, Tyler Schloe, Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord. They're not going to go and want to start someone like that. And for a guy who had like top 10 hype, getting Jackson Dart here at 21 is a very good situation for them to be in. And do I think that Jackson Dart is going to pan out or even go to the Steelers? It's up in the air. It really depends on if Rodgers signs with the Steelers. If he does, then it's probably Jackson Dart here. If he doesn't, then we start getting more questions. Or I think I said that opposite. If he does sign here, it's more questionable. But if he doesn't, it has to be a quarterback. You cannot wait till the second round to get your quarterback and start Mason Rudolph. Chargers right here, I'm going with the Georgia player, Mykel Williams. I think that Mykel Williams really had top 10 potential, but he's fallen quite a bit here. Not many edges have been going off the board here. I think a lot of them are going to go in these later rounds. But Mykel Williams right here to the Chargers. They just lost Joey Bosa. They have Khalil Mack for one more season, but I think they'd want to pair him with the elite edge rusher, possibly that could be, especially a young guy. Khalil Mack isn't going to be around here for too much longer, and Mykel Williams is a great pick here. Green Bay Packers at 23. I think we're going to go Derek Harmon here, reinforce the interior defensive line. Overall, I think that, it's a really good player, especially right here. He could even go over Walter Nolan. He's projected to right now, but I think the Packers will be super happy fixing their run defense with Derek Harmon, which was not very good last year. And I think that, defensively, that's where they need to go. I know that a lot of people say that they could go wide receiver 2. They don't usually draft receiver from the first round, and I think that they're going to go defensively with this first pick. And I know Packers fans hate to hear it. Vikings, I think they're absolutely stoked that Malachi Starks has fallen this far, because I think that he's an elite safety. You have Harrison Smith for another year, but you kind of lack talent at your other secondary positions. And besides, I guess, Byron Murphy. But I think that Malachi Starks really helps your secondary out, an absolutely elite safety, especially when Harrison Smith decides to retire. I think that, overall, Malachi Starks will be able to slot in there, replace him, do everything you need him to do. Houston Texans, I'm going to go right here with Gray Zabel. And the reason I go with Gray Zabel is, once again, versatility on the offensive line. He has played pretty much every position here at North Dakota State. Once again, where I think it says it right here. No, he played, I'm pretty sure, like right tackle, left tackle, guards, maybe even like a little bit of center. But Gray Zabel, once again, the Texans need every single position on that offensive line. And overall, I think that, that's the pick that they need to make. They need offensive line now. Now the Rams, I see a lot of Carson Schwarzenegger going here in the first round. I did that in my last rebuild, but I'm going to go Jahdae Barron. Once again, secondary is another need that the Rams need other than linebacker. And I also feel like they could address it later in the draft with someone like Chris Ball Jr. or Smile Mondon Jr. I don't think they'd feel too confident taking Carson in the first round more than a different linebacker in the next round. He could even fall to the Rams' second pick or they trade up. But overall, I think that if they see a guy they like, they'll take him, and I think they'll like Jahdae Barron. Now the Ravens, once again, are also stoked here to get Mike Green. Mike Green is a really, really good edge rusher. I'm not as high as him than the other edge rushers I picked before him, like Williams, Walker, Stewart. But the Ravens are super happy to get him right here. They need a dominant edge presence, and maybe Mike Green can help them out right here. I also toyed with receiver here, someone like Egbuka or Luther Burden III, but I eventually went with edge because I thought that with Lamar Jackson, he can make anything happen. We saw that the offense was really good, and I think that really what needed to be addressed was the defensive line and the edge group just to get someone to come to the quarterback besides Noni Matabuike. The Lions, I feel like, will be a perfect fit for new offensive guard Tyler Booker. I think, once again, he's the best true guard in this class. Gray Zabel is, I feel like he's more of like a versatile guy. But, they just lost Kevin Zeitler, and I think that they have a hole at right guard, and I think that that's going to be just directly filled, one-for-one replacement with Tyler Booker, pairing him with the best right tackle in football in Penei Sewell. And that offensive line is absolutely scary. Now, with Washington Commanders, I think that they definitely need secondary help. So who do I go with here? I'm going to go Trey Amos, the corner out of Ole Miss. I don't usually have him in the first round, but I think that he definitely has first-round talent. And he's kind of like that outside corner that Marshawn Lattimore is, but Lattimore kind of struggled a little bit on the Commanders, and you can never have too much secondary here. And I think that Trey Amos is very underrated, and he could definitely sneak his way into the first round. And the Commanders, once again, they just need secondary help. I mean, look how much it helped the Eagles taking 2 secondary players last year, and I think that the Commanders are going to look to strengthen that part. As well as the Buffalo Bills taking Maxwell Hairston. Probably had the best combine out of anybody in the NCAA. I think that Hairston is a very good player, and he's a very versatile player as well. I think that he could be a slot guy or an outside guy. He's got tons of playmaking ability, and I think the Bills would absolutely love to have him here at 30. Now, the next player we're going to be taking is for the Kansas City Chiefs. They need offensive linemen. Their guys are getting older. They just traded away Joe Thuney. I'm going to go Josh Simmons here. He's a solid offensive tackle. You need somebody so that Jawan Taylor isn't just racking up false starts through every single game of the season. So, Josh Simmons right here. Once again, great player at a position of need for the Chiefs. And there's a lot of offensive linemen in this draft as well. I could see him going maybe even Donovan Jackson or Ariante Ursary. But I'm going to go with Josh Simmons. Now the Eagles, this is going to be an edge rusher. Now the real question is, who is it going to be? Nick Scorton, James Pierce Jr., Donovan Eziraku. It could even be someone like, where is he? He's really down here in drafts. Is he not down here? Maybe he's up here. Where is he? Josiah Stewart, I know, had a couple of top 30 visits. You can even go JT Tuamalo. You can even go Jack Sawyer. There's a lot of teams, but I think there's one guy who stands above the rest, and that is James Pierce Jr. I think that once again he has also become criminally underrated, and Eagles have showed they have absolutely no problem taking players that seemingly have character issues. So here's the full mock draft. Final thoughts. I feel like the trades were not completely unrealistic, but also maybe like a little bit not shoehorn gonna happen. I think that there's very low chance that the Giants do trade out of number 3, but if Travis Hunter goes 2, they would definitely be open to it. And I can see the Chicago Bears making a bold move for a dominant edge rusher, something that the Giants already have. And once again, I think the Colts trading down, more the Buccaneers trading up, definitely could happen, seeing as these 3 teams all need defensive players, and so do the Bucs. And if a guy like Will Johnson or even like Nick Emenwari is here, I feel like they'll trade up for him. So let me know which picks I got right. Let me know which ones I got wrong, and I'll see you guys in the next video.